Okay, it's test time again. Today I wanted to test the bonding strength of MetalprimerZ. MetalprimerZ is going to supersede Metalprimer 2. It'll be out in early first quarter of 2019. And so I wanted to perform some tests. The brag is on it that it has better performance ratings, being that you can bond to any alloy using it and resin. There's also a zirconia aspect to it as well. I would ask you to read more about it online. Just Google GC MetalprimerZ. But for the application of alloy and self-cure resin, I went ahead and I aerobraded 50 micron aluminous oxide this portion of a palatal strap of an old partial denture I had on hand. Then I treated it with the, where is that rascal? Here it is, the MetalprimerZ, and treating it is putting it on a brush and painting it on the surface you're going to bond to and allowing it to air dry. You'll see it air dry, it evaporates, and once it's evaporated, then you will immediately adapt whatever type of resin you want to adapt to it. In this case, I adapted self-curing acrylic. Now the next part of the test is that I will take, now that it's cured, and I will take a disc and I will cut a slot down the middle of the product all the way to the alloy, and then I will take my trusty Mora knife and I will push it in between, and I will go to fracture to see what kind of a bond I get between the acrylic and the alloy, or does the acrylic fail. Alright, so let me cut this first. Let me do this. Alright. The reason I cut a groove down the middle is I want to expose, I don't know if you can see it, the alloy or whatever I'm bonding to at the bottom, so that I can create a wedge that will allow me to force the material, in this case the resin, off the alloy. So let's see what happens. Yeah, just as I suspected, it ain't coming off. Oh, finally. Alright. But it did not come off clean. In fact, what it did was it stuck to the metal quite nicely. In fact, the acrylic failed before the bond between the acrylic and metal failed. That's very encouraging. Let's cut another groove down there just for yucks. I'll go this away. Okay. And again, down to the alloy. Wedge in my knife. And I have to work on it a bit. There, we get a little bit of fracture. Again, you'll notice there's plastic that's still stuck on the metal, which tells me that it's bonding perfect. It's really great. I mean, that's a super bond between metal and acrylic. Look, again, the acrylic is failing before the bond between the acrylic and metal is failing. So this is a very good sign. You know, a lot of times you're busy in your lab, you don't have a chance to perform these tasks. I do. thought I'd bring you this information today to show you that if you're thinking about metal treatment, you should really consider the MetalprimerZ. Actually, the MetalprimerZ works just the same way, but this MetalprimerZ, I wanted to see if it worked as good as, and it definitely does. And again, it may have fractured, but it didn't fracture off of the alloy. What it did was it fractured on the acrylic. That's a really cool. That's a really a cool example of how well that stuff bonds. MetalprimerZ. Go get you some.